I feel like I always thought at some point I would do my own thing because, like, now that I think about it, both of my parents were like working on things that they like started for themselves. And maybe subconsciously, I always like thought, okay, I guess I will end up doing something similar at some point. It's one thing to have like, oh, your first hire that's maybe an intern or something, but it's a different thing when you have people who have like families and stuff that like their livelihood is dependent on you, you know, doing what you're doing well, like being successful. I think there was still like an element of doubt, but I think part of it is also, I guess, like as women, we tend to doubt ourselves a lot more. So um, I just remember feeling like, wait, like, but why though? But then obviously celebrating, but then still feeling like, okay, now I now really need to live up to this even more. I don't remember who like brought it up in our group, but it was just something of like, oh, okay, we see like all of these things happening. We are a bunch of, I guess, organized women. Is there a way for us to like try and consolidate things so that it's more efficient and like we can help out basically? So that's kind of where we decided that we would try to consolidate the fundraising a bit and then like disperse it to the different groups that were helping out.
Ire, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Dio. Thanks for having me.
For those who don't know who you are, um, how would you describe yourself right now?
This is kind of complicated in the past year to explain like what I'm doing, but I try to put my I guess my professional sphere under like three buckets. So first is engineer, software engineer, which is what I've done for most of my career. I've specialized in front end web development. The second is entrepreneur. I have spent most of my career thus far working on a startup called Helicarrier, where I was co-founder, CEO, VP of engineering. And then third is investor. So I've also been an angel investor, and now that I am, I guess, post working at my startup, I'm now trying to focus more on investing and supporting other entrepreneurs.
Okay, that's a good way to describe yourself and different buckets
Yeah.
as well. I like that. When you look back on your childhood, do you think the three buckets that you've placed yourself in, do you think you were going to do these three things at this point in time in your
Hmm.
life?
Definitely not. I would say the engineer parts, perhaps, because it's something that have been really interested in for most of like my, I guess, teenage life. Because I think before then, I'm not even sure like websites existed before then, but as a teenager, it's something that I was very interested in. So if it was something I thought I could do as an adult, I probably would think, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do. But at the time, I didn't actually think it was a career option. So I was actually always quite confused as to what I would end up doing because I knew there were like many things I was interested in. This is why I ended up studying psychology for my first degree because I just sort of picked the topic that I was most interested in, like during secondary school, and I wasn't really picking it as oh, I want to be a psychologist as my career. And like, I guess I was sort of exploring it, but in the end, I said I didn't want to. So I would say I'm not one of these people who always knew, oh, this is the career I want to get into. I feel like it's always just evolved.
When you look at your childhood, what are the earliest memories of childhood for you? Paint a picture of what Ire looked like, 5 years old.
I would say I still describe myself as an introvert, right? So I would say that version of me was like a very quiet child. Like I liked playing by myself. Um, this is when I discovered, like I said, well, I guess towards the end of primary school is when I discovered like online websites and online games. And so I would just do that. My two older siblings, were away in secondary school and boarding school in Togo, Lome. So I sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel like I just grew up as an only child because I feel like I was for the most part by myself. But again, as like young introvert Ire, that was like cool. I was just enjoying myself in my room, like playing games by myself, basically.
I know you coded your first site at 13, or you built
Hmm.
your first website at 13. How does that happen?
How? I think nowadays it sounds maybe more impressive than it was at the time. But it was basically through this online game that I would play a lot, which is called Neopets. It's like you have like these pets, it's like this whole world and things like that. But it was like very comprehensive, very extensive. And as part of it, like you would have like your own profile page, for example, and you could edit or you could customize it using HTML and a little bit of CSS. And so, like, they would, in order for you to be able to do that, they actually would teach you, oh, this is how HTML works, this is how CSS works. So, I actually just learned how to edit HTML and CSS through this site. And then, because I was really obsessed with the game, I then wanted to like make like fan pages and stuff about it and create like content for it. So that's when I then developed my own websites outside of like just customizing the page. And that was like me building my first sites more or less from scratch.
And was this on a system like a laptop or a PC?
Like a desktop PC. I was going to say, did laptops exist then? I'm not even sure they did, but it definitely wasn't something we had in my house at that point. It was still just like the family computer that's in the computer room.
And what did your parents make of that at that point in time? Was it like a light bulb moment
They
for them? Like, okay, maybe
At all, not
this
at
is
all.
something that we should latch onto.
No, not at all. They were just like, what is, first of all, they didn't even really know what was happening because I wasn't going around telling people what I was doing. I was just like in my own world, making my websites and stuff. But yeah, but they were always just like, oh, Ire is just always on the computer. And there wasn't really that much more than that. I mean, like my dad really knew I was into technology. So when the first iPhone came out, he bought it and he didn't give it to me, but he showed it to me and was like, "Oh, this is really," because he knew I would appreciate it. But even then, they didn't think that, oh, building websites is a career. So they were just like, "Oh, this is an interesting hobby," but nobody ever thought, "Oh, let's like develop this. Maybe you can build something interesting or anything like that." It was more just like, "Okay, that's cool. So what are you actually going to do for your like for work?"
At what point did you realize that this was something you wanted to do? I mean, build websites.
To be honest, it was not until after I was like even doing my second degree. So like even like I said, I did my undergrad in psychology, and then I was still a bit confused as to what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, let me do a master's. And I did like sort of like a law conversion course, but it was over 2 years. And because my mom is a lawyer and she failed to convert both my older siblings to being a lawyer. And I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do. So let me just like do something that she would like. And I think law is also like a good degree to have. So I thought it's not wasted time or anything. And it was while I was doing this law degree that I became good friends with somebody who was studying computer science. At the time, I don't know whether it's my fault or the failure of like I guess, career people around me, but I never really understood what the computer science degree actually was. But when I like befriended this guy and he was now showing me what he's doing, it then clicked that, oh, this is very similar to what I've been doing. And I didn't know that this is something I could have studied and I could have actually made a career out of. So I was like really annoyed. and, and then I was like, okay, I'm not going to go and do a third degree. I'm not going to go and try and study computer science. I'm just going to have to try and, now that I know that this is actually a thing I could have done and a thing that can lead towards a career, I started doing more research. And I said, okay, let me just try and continue doing what I've been doing, which is just like doing it on the side, and then trying to develop my skills outside of, like, I was determined that there's no way I'm going to do another degree. So I was like, let me just find all the courses I can do. Let me look at online, all the free resources. So that's how I really tried to like develop my skills. And then when I graduated from my law degree is when I actually had a conversation with some of my family members, like, okay, this is what I want to do. And they didn't really understand it. But what I just said to them was that, okay, I'm going to give myself like a year and try and show you, I guess, that I can make something of this. And if it didn't work out, then the plan was that I would actually just go to law school and continue being a lawyer. But I wanted to give it a chance. So that's kind of I guess, the moments where I decided, okay, I'm going to try and make this work.
So there was never a point where you thought you were going to practice law, even while in school.
No, I actually thought I would. I actually was planning to. Like, besides this happening, I was genuinely planning to. And the backup, the whole, oh, if this doesn't work for a year, will go and do law. I was actually quite fine with that. Like, I felt like I enjoyed it. I thought I would be good at it. I had done like an internship, I think in the summer of my between my first and second year with like a law firm, and um, it was like it was okay. I wasn't gonna say it's like the most interesting thing ever, but like I felt like I would be good at it, and it was something I could do. So there was no, like, it wasn't like a threat to me. Like, oh no, I really don't want to go and do it. I think I would have enjoyed it.
When you think about like teenage Ire, what were like the early influences? What kind of shaped you to be an adult Ire? What are those things that,
Hmm.
either pivotal moments or folks that influenced you, or that you looked up to at the time?
Hmm. I think I struggle with this a lot because I don't feel like I really had early, I don't know, idols or people that I was like striving to necessarily be like, except for, I guess, maybe like my parents, right? I wanted to, make them proud, all of that stuff. But I didn't feel like there were specific people outside of that that really made me say, okay, I want to like make my career after this person. While, like I said, I really enjoyed psychology. I really liked my psychology teacher when I was doing IB at a school in the UK. And I guess, like I said, when I was confused and I was like, well, what am I really going to do now? I thought, oh, this is something very interesting that I would like to continue to pursue. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, I guess besides that, I would say like just family members, like my parents.
Were there like specific foundational values your parents instilled in you when you were younger that still hold true today?
I would say just the value of, like, putting in the hard work. Like, I don't think I ever saw them just, I don't know, just like not really doing anything, or um I felt like the I guess the fruits of their labor that we were enjoying, I could see the labor happening. I could see, like, um you know my dad waking up at like 5 6 a.m. every day, like, to make sure that he exercises and going to work and stuff like that. And even my mom, that is was working, her work was a lot more flexible. Like, she was a lawyer but self-employed. I still saw her always, like, being productive, being doing work. So I think that work ethic, I would say, definitely did like pass to me as well.
Yeah. And any other thing aside from work ethic? Because I mean, we see that in you,
Hmm.
obviously, from a work ethic standpoint.
Yeah. Hmm.
Were there other things that come to mind for you in terms of values that your parents instilled in you?
I guess also the value of, like, giving back and, paying it forward. Like, I think I always saw that there was always a conscious effort towards donating to things, supporting other things, and not just, I guess, making money for the sake of like buying a bigger house or something like that. It's like also trying to contribute back to. back to society, and particularly at home as well. So I would say that's something that's maybe subconsciously stuck with me, and I try to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that play out with you giving, well, I'll call it scholarships to um,
Yeah,
women that want to go into tech, for instance, right? So I'm guessing
yeah,
that comes from that, right?
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember your first job out of school?
My first job out of school. Well, the first internship thing I did, or the first real job, the first ever like internships type thing I did was actually at Deola Sego, the fashion house. I think at that time I was going through a fashion phase, I guess. And I guess my parents were asking like what I'm interested in, and I said, "Oh, I'm kind of interested in fashion." And I think my mom had a relationship with Deola Sego, so she just asked whether I could intern with them, and it was quite cool actually. Like I enjoyed it. I mean, obviously I'm not that into fashion anymore, but I think it was like my first time really like getting up every day. You have somewhere to go, you have like responsibilities and things. So that definitely was like an interesting experience, and I have done other internships after that, but my first like I guess real job was after I graduated, and I was working with Digital Craft, which is like a software software development studio. So we build like apps for different clients, and I worked with them right after I finished my law degree. I think I was there maybe like 6 months to a year, I think. And before I then moved on to the next job
Did you get paid for your internship at the
at
fashion
the
house?
Olase. The thing is, I actually don't remember. I genuinely don't remember if I did. I feel like I didn't, but I don't remember. Also, I don't think I was contributing that much.
Did you enjoy your time there
I
at the
did
time?
enjoy my time there actually, and it did make me think like, oh, would I really want to work in fashion? But I think just like my interest in the fields sort of dwindled over time. But like, I think it was a very positive experience for me.
Talk about your first, tech role, which you kind of mentioned just very briefly just now. Um, how did you get it? And what was the
Um,
experience like while you were there? Was it like a good launch pad into the career?
Yes, I would definitely say it was a good launch pad. So, well, what I didn't really mention is that before I worked with them, is that I started off trying to be like just a freelance web developer. And I did that for a few months, but I really, really disliked having to work with clients because like I don't know, I just had my own way of trying to do things, and I don't think I was very good at trying to like explain to them why what they wanted was wrong and why what I wanted was the correct way. So I was like, okay, I think I need to just work within a company or something. I don't want to be doing like this type of client work. I worked with them, like I said, for about 6 months. How did I get it? It was actually like through Twitter, sort of. I had recently started blogging, and I don't think I had explicitly said I was looking for something, but from my memory, we connected through Twitter because they had seen my writings on my blog, and then we kind of like took it from there. And that's pretty much how I've gotten most of my other jobs as well, through like Twitter and social media and stuff like that. So that I don't know, take what you will from that.
Where was the company based in?
In Lagos.
Oh, okay. And this
Yeah.
was before your job at Big Cabal, correct?
Yes, this was just before the job at Cabal. Yeah.
And then you get thrown into Big Cabal as, I think, were you
Yeah.
the CTO at the time?
Well, yeah, I guess head of technology, but then head of what if I'm the only person there? So, like, I guess I can call myself at least this is what I put on my CV, head of technology, but like, But to be fair, obviously the team grew as we grow as well. But yeah, so I while I was working at Digital Craft, I received this offer, and I thought, well, this is like a really good opportunity to, I guess, even work on building out a team and have a lot more reach as well. And so I decided to go and work with them, and I was there for, I think, just over or under about 2 years, I would say.
And what did the role look like? I mean, we just talked about being the head of one person. Like, what did that
Yeah,
entail, especially for like a media company, especially for those who don't know what Big Cabal is, right? Big Cabal is a media tech company
yeah.
out of Africa. But what did that role look like for you as the head of technology? What was the JD like when you got in? I'm sure it was different from what you eventually did, but paint a
Yeah.
picture.
Well, it was mostly just like, at first it was just okay, they have these two publications, which is Tech Cabal, focused on tech, and Zikoko, which is more like I guess culture media. And they they were using WordPress at the time. I don't know if they still are. And it was okay, they need to like build out these new sites on WordPress. So at first it was mainly just like, okay, I need to actually just build out the site. So it was a lot more just like the engineering side. And then over time, as they're developing more and more different types of products, it was now like, okay, we need to launch this like there was one app which was supposed to be like a meme generator kind of thing. It was like just like African memes. And so it was like, okay, so want this to exist, like what sort of team do we need? What does it need to look like? So then it became a lot more not just like actually just building out the thing yourself, but also thinking more about products and team and operations and what all of that should look like. And yeah, like I said, that we did that over like 2 years, and it was just different projects that needed to be done, and like, how do you make it happen?
I guess that would have been a lot of experience as well for you at the time,
Yes, definitely.
right? Because you're essentially doing more than just build a website or build like a front
Exactly.
end development, right? Um,
Yeah.
you've credited your writing as an important tool for helping you get some of the jobs, which you just said recently.
Mm.
Now, what do you love about writing? What is it about writing that you enjoy?
Well, I'm laughing because, like, would I say that I love writing? I think it's it's very helpful for me, and when I'm in the flow of it, I can definitely say that I love doing it. But it's sometimes very difficult to get yourself to do it. So it is in that sense quite difficult, and there is that like love hate relationship. But the reason I started it in the first place was because I had listened to a podcast. Because okay, so like I said, I was like a freelance web developer, web designer, and I wanted to get a job, and I was kind of like, okay, well, if I even just applied for a job now, what am I going to even show them that I know how to do and all of that? And I was listening to a podcast which was talking about how, like, writing and stuff like that is really important because it really helps you build more of that profile and show that you know what you're talking about. And it was very convincing because like that day I went home and I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And then I started writing. And I think in addition to, building your brand, I think it was also really helpful for me because it helped me like continue to learn and helped me um I guess consolidate my knowledge. Like it's one thing to, read something and say you know it. It was a different thing to then try and teach somebody else. So I was trying to use it for that dual purpose. I was like, okay, well, it's just going to be beneficial to me even if nobody reads it. But if people do read it, then I do have something to show as like, oh well, this is the things that I know, and it gives you a lot of like legitimacy. So I did that consistently, like once a week for like 2 or 3 years, and then schedule. dwindled a bit after that. But I think it was very helpful. And I think when you do have that schedule, it does become more enjoyable because you are like really flexing that muscle more and more frequently. So it makes it, the difficulty of jumping in is a bit lessened because you're now just used to it. And then you can just focus on the really positive parts, which is like actually enjoying what you're writing and enjoying contributing.
And what were you writing about at the time? Was it specifically like tech? Was it specifically front end development? Was it about life? Like, what was that?
It was very focused on front end development. So specific, I don't know, tools that I was learning or just it was called Bits of Code because it was like looking, the idea was to look at little bits of like code and try and like break it down and say, okay, why do we do it this way? What's the meaning behind it? Like to really make sure you understand what it is that you're writing because I guess even more so nowadays, but back then it was very easy to just like copy and paste certain things and then edit it. And then you don't really know exactly what you're doing. But I wanted to understand more what I was doing. So that's kind of what the idea behind it was.
Got it. I know you're a self-taught developer. Would you say, I think the way I want to ask this question is that what are the pros and cons to being a self-taught developer, as
Mm,
opposed to you having a formal degree? Like, was it really challenging for you? Like, did you wish you had a formal degree, for instance? Like,
mm,
just for the audience, because a
yeah.
lot of people, obviously, we come when we talk about development, like coding, most people get self-developed. They're always self-developed at most times, right? You end up seeing
Mm,
people that study computer science, not even coding, and then you end up seeing
mm,
folks that studied other degrees, going into computer science as well. But for you, was it more challenging and more difficult to become like a very good developer, or you just rode with it?
um, I think in a way, yes, because um, there's a lot of things that maybe you don't know, and also you don't know that you don't know because you haven't received the formal training, which is also why I was really keen on doing the blog because I wanted to like force myself to learn some of these things that maybe I would have learned if I went and had a formal degree, but I didn't really get the opportunity to do that. So, in that sense, yes. And also, it can, I guess, maybe affects like your confidence and you have the sense of like imposter syndrome because you have not had what you might consider like the appropriate like training and stuff. So it might make it more difficult for you to really put yourself out there. So again, that's why why I wanted to do the blog to sort of or to try to like get over that because it's like I can't just be like, oh, I will never achieve this because I never got this degree. But on the other side, like I think it's obviously still fine because there are so many people, like you said, majority that don't actually have the degree. And in some respects, maybe it pushes you to like be more of this like continuous learning rather than maybe you just went and got the degree and you thought, okay, that's it. Whereas like it's not it. Everything changes like every day. So you have to like be continuously trying to like level up. And maybe if you had just gotten a degree, you might be less inclined to do that. So there's definitely pros and cons. I think if I went back, I am happy I with what I've learned because I think psychology and law, two things I think have really like built a good foundation for me for life and doing other things outside of even just like engineering. So I don't regret having done those, um but I also really like studying. So I I could have done a third degree if I wasn't at that point just tired of being in school.
Yeah. And when you think about being self-taught as well, like what were the things you were doing at the time to help you get up to speed with development, tech development in general?
Yeah, so I tried to do as many like at first just free online courses. So at the time, I think Codecademy was a good one that was entirely free. I know now they have like different pricing tiers and stuff, but I did all of those.
I actually learned how to code on Code Academy as well.
Really
Yeah,
nice.
because there was a time where I think this was 2015 or 2016 or thereabout when I was running my startup. I was like, you know what, let me try and learn how to code. But I got stuck somewhere and I was like, nah, this is not for me.
Right.
And I didn't go back anymore.
Yeah, I think those tools are really helpful for this exact purpose, right? At least try it out and see whether this is something for you or not. So yeah, I did that, and then I did like looking at a lot of blogs, so stuff like CSS tricks and a lot of like Google blogs as well, to just be like up to date with like what is happening. um of course, like just creating projects that you need to build, right? And just being like, okay, let me take this site that I think is nice, let me try and recreate it on my own without like, copying their code or anything, and seeing, okay, can I have the same effect? Or just like offering to, I don't know, friends and family, like, oh, I'll build your website. Like I built my sister's website. This was when I was trying to learn WordPress. So I like said, oh, let me build her website on WordPress. And looking back, I made so many like weird mistakes, but it was, a good learning process. And then after I had exhausted all of that is when I was like, okay, let me try and do some paid courses. So I did a Udacity nano degree. This was like years into like my career and stuff. But basically I exhausted all the like free stuff I could at first, and then I looked at, okay, what can I like supplement my knowledge with? And I think at every step they were like very helpful.
Makes sense. One of the things I remember, years back was when you became the first female Google developer expert, right? I'm curious, like,
In
what does
Nigeria,
it
not
in
ever.
Nigeria? Sorry, in
Yeah.
Nigeria. Just to be clear,
Yeah.
in Nigeria, but it's still a big achievement, by the way.
Yeah.
So what does it entail to become one? Because it feels like it's a lot of process.
Kind of. I think, well, when I first heard about it, one of the first questions I asked is like, what do you mean expert exactly? Like, what does that really mean? And they were like, yeah, experts, like you have to be an expert at this. And I think at the time, after I had, started writing and started speaking and stuff as well, I was in the mind frame of really just trying to like put myself out there for things. And if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But like being less afraid to, I guess, put myself out there. So I said, okay, I don't consider myself an expert, but I'm going to like apply anyway. So in my field was web technologies. And so you have to go through a bit of a process. So you put together like kind of like a CV, but it's not just like, oh, where you worked. It's also, okay, what have you written? Where have you spoken at? Like what's community work are you doing? Because part of the program is not just being an expert, but it's like um I guess helping others with your expertise. So teaching others, helping uplift the community basically. So you have to put together this CV of, okay, well, this is the blog post I've written, or this is where I've spoken at, this is like the events I've organized. Um, so you put that together, and then you go through, I think you go through like two or three interview stages. Basically, like you'll be interviewed by the community lead for your region. You'll be interviewed by another person who's also an expert in that field, so they will maybe ask you a bit more like technical questions, to somewhat verify like, okay, you know what you're talking about. You meet with somebody that it just works at Google as well, likely also in the sector. So like meeting somebody who works on Chrome, for example. And then I think you'd also meet with like the head of the entire like Google Developer Experts program. And so yeah, you go through that and then hopefully you get in. If not, I think they will also just provide you feedback of like, okay, this is where um we think you've like fallen short, and you can obviously apply again if you then address those particular issues.
And when you got it, how did you feel?
um I felt like, but I'm not an expert. It was just, it is the thing with like imposter syndrome, if I don't know you want to call it that, but like I feel like there's almost no level of thing you can achieve that will make you convinced that you are not an imposter. So I think I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then I was like, but why though? Like, why would they do this? So I think there was still like an element of doubt. But I think part of it is also, I guess, like as women, we tend to doubt ourselves a lot more. So um I just remember feeling like, wait, like, but why though? But then obviously celebrating, but then still feeling like, okay, now I now really need to live up to this even more. So then it's like, I guess, somewhat more pressure.
Has that changed over time in terms of like doubting yourself? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse?
Actually, yes, it's gotten better a lot because I've realized that everybody else feels the same way. It's just that they tend to not talk about it as much. I think it was when I really met, when I started speaking a lot more, and I met like like all these people that I've seen at so many conferences, and I just feel like, oh, they're the most amazing speakers. And like when I'm with them backstage, they're equally as like stressed and like scared as I am. And I'm realizing that, oh, everybody is scared. It's just that when you step on a stage, like it doesn't seem that way. You just start doing it and it's okay. So I think that definitely helped a lot. Just meeting all these people that I have, been following their blogs and stuff for years, and then realizing that they also feel the same. And yeah, I think the more impressive people you meet, the more you realize that like everybody is just
Winging it.
doing, everybody's just winging it. Like people, even like when my recent like MBA, being in like an environment where these are like the top achievers and all these things, and then you just see them like using chat gpt to like put together some random thing, or like, and you're just like, wait, everybody is just doing, it just seems like they have their shit together, but nobody has their shit together like that.
Yeah. What would you say the most impactful benefit is being like a GDE? Or what has it been for you
Hmm.
in terms of like benefits being part of that community?
I think it's obviously the access you get to people within Google is really helpful for somebody working as like a web developer, right? You actually even have some say in what happens. So like if they are trying to release a new feature in like Chrome tools, um, they will typically like give us early access so we can like preview it and we can give feedback on whether we think it should work this way or that way. So I think that's really great. I think the community itself is also really beneficial, and just it's just nice to also be around other people, especially as like introverts, which a lot of us in this industry are. But it's nice that we get to come together and just like share tips on things. And I think the my fondest memories are of when we have these like GDE summits where we all get together. Like I think the last one we did, which was like just before COVID, like 2019, was one of the best ones because it was like, I guess, the last time that it was like a global, everyone like could come to one place. Now because the program is bigger, um they don't do one global one anymore. But those were always like very good memories and very good beneficial events.
Are you still very involved right now?
Yeah, I'm still an active GDE. I I'm less active as I was before because I'm not writing as much. But I am trying to be involved more on like also like mentoring other potential GDEs. There's this program called Road to GDE where they take like prospective candidates, and then they, assign a mentor, and then over like maybe like 3 months, we've helped them to get them prepared to become a GDE. So I'm focusing more on that than I guess like the blog posts and stuff like that.
Got it. How many more Nigerian female GDs did we have after you?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure the answer to this. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, Moeen was like also or is also a GDE, but I think obviously she moved as well. But I'm not actually sure how many other. I need to look that up. So I should be like, I'm one of how many.
Yeah. I want us to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, right? It's a very tough path to go
Man.
on.
Yeah.
But the first question I have for you is, was it something was there something when you were young that you felt, okay, I actually want to own a company. I want to start a company at some point in time in the future, or was this something that just happened by chance?
I think it's more that it just happened by chance. But that said, I feel like I always thought at some point I would do my own thing because, like, now that I think about it, both of my parents were like working on things that they like started for themselves. And maybe subconsciously, I always like thought, okay, I guess I will end up doing something similar at some point. But I wasn't one of those like I don't know, like at 10 years old, I had a lemonade stand or whatever the Nigerian equivalent of that is. I wasn't like always like hustling to do a business or anything like that. But um, I think it felt very natural when it did come like, okay, yes, actually, this is something I'm going to do.
Was your first company the one you started? Was it Bitcoin Africa, or was
Yes,
that
yes.
that was the first one, right?
Yeah, the first like actual company, I guess. I think we had done other like random projects, which I don't even remember now, but like the first proper company.
Yeah, and how did that come about? And obviously, it was in crypto, right? And I want us to
Yeah.
kind of touch a little bit on where the love for crypto came to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say it's something that like grew over time. It wasn't something like I was super passionate about when we started. It was more that like, my co-founders um obviously, well, MMM was a thing at the time, right? So we were all like, oh man, we have to get we have to buy some Bitcoin. And one of our friends had recently bought like a car from his like profits of like Ethereum or something. So we are like, okay,
We
we
need to
need to
get in.
cash in on this. We need to get in on this somehow. But it was like the idea for the company came from my co-founders, who are the ones that like saw, I guess, this opportunity of, okay, well, Bitcoin is a thing people are interested in now, but there isn't really any way that you can do it outside of like the peer-to-peer platforms. And because Paystack was just like becoming a bigger thing, we saw like, oh, this is now a new technology that we can use to charge people's cards to like do online transactions. So we thought, oh, we can then marry the two there. But I would say like my interest in Bitcoin and crypto was something that developed more over time. Obviously, like I mentioned, MMM, but we also saw the utility. Like we even ourselves had used it to do cross-border transactions. So, like one of our co-founders that was based in the US, we're trying to send him money, and we're like, really, the easiest way right now is just to send him Bitcoin. So we did that, and we thought, okay, this is actually like an opportunity for something. So that became another product that we launched, Send Cash. So there was definitely that there. And the more I like learned about it, particularly Bitcoin, and I saw like, oh, this is something that is more than just the MMM. It's also like has real utility. And So it became more of a thing that I was like, oh, I actually really do believe in this outside of just what we're creating or outside of just like making money.
Yeah. And what was the conversation like starting? Obviously you all are co-founders, right?
Mm.
And you all are technical. So
Yeah.
what was the conversation around what role was each person meant to be
Yeah.
focused on?
Well, it felt quite, I guess, natural, because we didn't have that conversation actually until we got into YC, because they then asked us, okay, well, who's your CEO? And we were like, we had not even thought about that yet. So we then sat down and had a conversation, and I was like, okay, actually, well, it made sense for like Timmy to be the CEO because he's the one that basically originated this. He's the one that brought us as a team together. It made sense for me to be COO because I was the most organized person. See, that was like my qualification, organized. And I guess also, I had like this law background as well. So it made sense that I could handle like the operations, the legal side, that kind of stuff. It made sense for Tomowa to be product because he was the one that was actually like maybe the most obsessed with crypto and the most obsessed with like the product itself. So that's how it kind of happened. But obviously, as we started, it was like who's like working on the. It was myself and Timmy first working on the product, and then it kind of just grew out from there as we like started hiring people. So I think it just formed quite organically, and I guess lucky for us, it wasn't one of those situations where we all wanted to be the CEO and we now had to like battle it out. It was just like this is actually just what makes the most sense, and we
Yeah.
moved on from there.
You mentioned YC, and I think for most African companies at the time that Bitcoin Africa started, YC was massive to get into at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about just being at YC for that 3 months. What makes YC special?
It was a very unique like environment, very unique um program to go through. Obviously like before then we were focused on building the product, but it was like a completely different level of focus being there when you've literally traveled halfway across the world and the only thing you have to do for these next 3 months is like build the perfect product and fundraise and all of that. So I think that's like very concentrated, like focused environments was really good. And then being around a bunch of other people who are doing the exact same thing is like just really inspiring. We've made lifelong friends from, people that we met there that um it's just like, I don't know, going through such an intense situation together really like forms bonds. And of course getting to have like talks from all these other people who like the Airbnb founders, or I think the ones that came on the first day. That was very inspiring to see how they turned like a cereal company into Airbnb, which is crazy. And yeah, I think the different like talks that we got, the advice that we got, it was just very helpful. And it was just like I said, it's just a once, even once you leave, you are never going to be in that sort of like intense environment again where you're just so like product focused. Of course, like doing startup is still going to be crazy.
Hmm.
But like it's very unique.
Yeah. And when you think about like the fact that you've been an operator and also now a founder at the time, what would you say are the biggest differences or similarities between both?
Oh, I think it's very different because being like an engineer, it was a lot easier for me to just kind of get lost in the work that I was doing. But when you are moving to like being a founder, it's so much, it's like you're not just working on one thing anymore. You're working on a million different things. And it's like there's no, oh, this task is completed. Nothing is ever completed. So it's just like an um ongoing level of everything that you're doing. So I think it's a very different mode of working. But I guess luckily for me, because I felt like while I really enjoy being like an engineer, I also just like enjoyed being involved in many different things and like I guess juggling many different tasks. So I thought I really did also like thrive in that environment. But it's definitely very different. And I think really, it's not like the same skill sets that you have being an operator that will transfer to being a founder. I think it's like actually very different.
Which do you prefer?
Ooh. I mean, for like peace of mind, I guess being an engineer, but I think being a founder, I guess when I think about what I want to achieve in my life and stuff, I would definitely pick that because I think I want to do something that has more broader impact. And what I think being an engineer can have impact, I think the impact you're likely to have is smaller being one engineer in a team rather than being somebody that's like driving a new product or new something.
Yeah. What would you say is like the hardest thing you've had to deal with as a founder or building a company in general? Or what when
Hmm.
you think about obviously building Bitcoin Africa into Helicarrier, what was like the toughest, hardest thing to do for you?
Yeah, I think the clear answer to me is having other people being dependent on you. Like it's one thing to have like, oh, your first hire that's maybe an intern or something, but it's a different thing when you have people who have like families and stuff that like their livelihood is dependent on you, doing what you're doing well, like being successful and things like that. And um I think that's for me was like a it was partly, I would say, what's like kept me going as well. Like there were many different things that kept me going, but one of them was definitely like feeling the responsibility of like this is not just like, oh, we're just like the three of us are just like creating something for fun or whatever. It's like no, now this is a lot more serious. So I would say that was a very like challenging part, or not challenging. I would just say it's like um it puts a new amount of pressure.
Yeah. Was there anything challenging? Just running a company, especially in Africa, as well.
Yeah. Nigeria in particular.
In particular, Nigeria.
Yeah.
Didn't want to put that out there, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but like, was there anything you remember? And I'm sure there's so many things. Trust me. I mean, I've also been a founder before. But like, what particular thing or two things can you think of right now that you was a big challenge and you ended up overcoming as well?
I mean, well, for us, it was definitely like the regulation stuff, um, just navigating, um, being in such like a new space that was not always being taken like well by the establishment, right? And I think in hindsight, there are ways I feel like we could have handled that better, which is just in engaging with the regulators a lot more proactively. I think that would have helped a lot, but it was just like a testy time in general. So I don't even know how how well that would have helped, but like I guess to some extent there's like a timing thing to it. So I would definitely say that. What else? Well, I guess going back to people management, like hiring and firing people, that's also very difficult. And I think,
I think people don't talk a lot about like
yeah,
how difficult it is to hire and fire people
it's rough. It's
because
very,
like
very rough. Yeah.
I know most often than not people would say, we're family, we're building this together. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you get to a point where maybe someone isn't doing that well and you're like, oh damn, I need to get rid of this
Yeah.
person, but how do I do it? Like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I think we realized saying family stuff is not a good idea, so we didn't really do that. And I think over time we did refine our process to to a way that I think was good. Like we had quite a very long in the beginning, like probation period where it's like, okay, we're working together, like you're being paid properly and all of that, but there's like a clear okay, we're going to do this for 3 months and see how we really like work together first. So it's not like we hire somebody after maybe like 1 week and then we realize, okay, this is not really working that well. And I think we always communicated very well. Like internally we had open like salary bands and stuff. Everything was clear, so we didn't have two people who are doing the same job getting paid differently because one person negotiated or anything like that. Like everything was quite clear and open. So I think I would hope that people that worked with us at least felt like we were that's like open environments, and people could always like reach out to one of us, which is it also helps having three co-founders because at least you should be able to talk to one of us, right? So I think, and having that like check and balance also did help. So it's not like one person with one strong personality completely can like overtake everything. It was like always this balance, like, okay, maybe this person is very much this way, but we all have these other two people who can kind of like create more of that balance. So I think that is something that I believe we managed to do well. But it was very tough, like getting to that stage, because obviously we did have to go through periods where you hire somebody and then very early on you realize no, this is not working, so you have to fire them, and that's like very, very difficult.
Yeah. Would you say building Helicarrier, Bitcoin Africa, whatever name you want to call it,
Yeah.
um, would you say that's one of your proudest achievements so far? And I put so far there because I know there's so
Huh.
much more you're going to
Yeah.
achieve in the future.
I think definitely I would say so. Because I mean, it was such a long time, right? I worked on this for like 6 years. And the amount of times we came so close to dying, but we still like persevered. And I think there were just so many things I learned from that experience. So regardless of like how it ended or how like I guess what happened afterwards, like I still feel like it was um yeah, definitely one of like my proudest achievements.
You think your dad will be proud of what you've done, right?
I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, from an entrepreneur to another entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you think
I
he'll be
would
super
hope
proud.
so.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would hope so, yeah.
awesome. I want to touch on something very quickly,
Yeah.
which I know it's kind of a sensitive subject, but I'd love to bring up the critical role Feminist Coalition played during ENDSARS. First of all, how did that coalition get started?
Okay. Yeah, is a crazy time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started with Dami and Odun, so they're the two I guess our co-founders, we call them. They like were already working on a women's group called Wine and Wine, where we'll drink wine and then like wine about about the
Oh yeah,
patriarchy.
wine and wine.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It was good. It was a good time. It was just like a fun thing. But they wanted to, I guess, start something like that will have more impact. So they enlisted about like ten other of us. I think we're like 12 in total. Um, to be a part of this feminist coalition where we would I guess do more towards like actually actively trying to make a change for women in the country. So this was started about in like July of 2020, but we hadn't started anything really when the whole NSARS protest began. And I don't remember who like brought it up in our group, but it was just something of like, oh, okay, we see like all of these things happening. We are a bunch of, I guess, organized women. Is there a way for us to like try and consolidate things so that it's more efficient and like we can help out basically? So that's kind of where we decided that we would try to consolidate the fundraising a bit and then like disperse it to the different groups that were helping out. So like whether it's like the healthcare or ambulance services or like just for people to have water during the protests and things like that.
Yeah, and when you think about the role you played as a group, do you feel like it was it was like an important period for you guys to step in at that particular time?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think we saw that things could be improved, things could be more efficient, like, and I think we did achieve what we wanted to, which was to, drive like I guess improve how funds were being raised since it was just so dispersed at the time, and it was difficult for somebody who is outside of the country and doesn't know specific people who are organizing a protest, like how do they support this movement. And I think we did achieve that in giving people you know that central thing, and then we're still able to like have the same effect.
Yeah, and I noticed or found out during my research that you were the one that designed the iconic ENDSARS logo
Yeah.
that became so popular as well.
Mm,
Was that something that you
yeah.
just did, you know?
It was not, there was like no thoughts put into it because like I said, it was like we had a call like one night and was like, okay, well, we need to get a website up and we need to do something. So I was like, okay, let me just put something together. And like it was in like 10 minutes or something that I just like put it together. And we definitely at the time did not think it would become something that would be so like I guess associated with the movement. So if I had known, maybe I would have put more thought into it. But
No, but it's
I
still
think
iconic
I think
though.
I think
It
it
worked
still
fine.
served the purpose. Yeah.
It worked fine. For someone who is shy, you've done a lot of speaking, right?
Yeah,
You've done
that is
quite a
true.
number
That is
of
true.
speaking.
Yeah.
What makes an outstanding speaker?
Hmm. That's a very good question because I would definitely not consider myself an outstanding speaker. I think
Don't
I
sell yourself short.
can. No, this one I feel like there are people who are way more engaging than I am. So, and I'm actually trying to like improve. Oh, how do I become a better storyteller? How do I like articulate things better? I think it's, at least from what I see from other people, I think it's about, I guess, creating that clear story, like so that people can very easily follow like what it is that you're trying to say, what's the point you're trying to make. Also coming across as comfortable as well, because like I mentioned, we're all really nervous before we get on the stage, but when you do get on the stage and start to speak, like being as comfortable as possible, I think that puts the audience at ease as well. That's why they always say it's good to like try and make a joke or something early on, so that because when you laugh, then you are more like comfortable, and then it helps the audience as well. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I feel like I can be better in terms of like my storytelling and being more engaging in how I present. Because I think I'm good at putting together like the slides and like presenting the information, but I think there's room for improvement there.
Is there anything you're doing specifically right now to improve that?
No. Or at least like besides thinking about it, I've not like actively tried to do anything. At what point I was thinking, oh, maybe I should like find a speech coach or something and try to do that. But that was just like a thought. It's not something I've done. But I think it's more just like, when I attend conferences and I see what other people are doing, I just try and make a mental note like, oh, this is like a good way this person explained this or how they spoke. And then I try to incorporate it in the next time I speak.
Yeah. You spoke earlier about the fact that you didn't want to get a third degree. I know that was specifically
Wait, now I
for
did,
tech,
right?
but now you have a third degree. And
Yeah,
I know
I
it
know.
also came after you being an operator, being a founder, and I can imagine how crazy it is to go back to school. Um,
Yeah.
and because I
Yeah.
tell myself,
Very.
I'm like, I don't think I can go back to school. Not in that format, the way you have
Mm,
done it, but I just feel like it's just tremendously hard to do. And I want to hear what
yeah.
your thoughts are on that, because you just finished. Why did you want to do an MBA first of all, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So I had decided that I was wanted to like leave being like a founder, and I knew that I wanted to go more into like investing advisory, like I guess helping other founders, because I feel like, oh, I learned a lot from my own experience, and I felt there was a way for me to channel this into helping other people. So I had gone back and forth on whether I did want to do an MBA for a while, because my now husband, but then boyfriend, did an MBA at Oxford, um, like a while, like maybe the year or so before I decided to do mine. And yeah, I was just kind of going back and forth on it. But once I like left the company, I was immediately like, oh, I need to do something. So I just started like training, studying to take the GMAT, which you have to take in order to apply for the MBA. So I just started doing that. And then the more I like, I guess, thought about it, I started thinking about, okay, the different schools I would want to do. And I started getting excited about it. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just do this. Let me actually just take a formal career break, because it's not like I knew exactly or what I wanted to do. And if I did want to do like what I was saying, like investing, maybe VC, that kind of thing, I felt like it would be very helpful to have an MBA. I would learn a lot, like academically, but also get the network in order to break into the industry and things like that. So I just thought, okay, this is the time. It's not like I'm gonna do it when I'm like 50 or something. So it's better I do it. It's better I do it now than later. So yeah, I just decided to go for it.
And what was the process like for you? Like, was it challenging? Like, did you feel like, oh damn, did you have days where you're like, what the hell am I doing here?
100%, to be honest. Like it was very stressful because, and I even say that in some ways it was more stressful than like being a founder, because there are just so many things like that you want to do, and particularly the MBA I did, because I went to INSEAD, and it's like maybe the shortest MBA there that exists, because it's like a full-time MBA, but it's only 10 months, whereas most MBAs are either 2 years or like just like a year or something like that. So um it was like an intense one that I opted to do. And there was just so much, like so many different things to juggle, right? It's like academics, if you want to do it, because a lot of people kind of get into it and they are really not that focused on the academics. So, and the good thing about an MBA is that once you get in, you really don't have to be that great at anything else. If you don't want to like be that into the academics, you don't have to. But I was trying to be like into the academics as well. So I was trying to be good at that, and then also be like, you know, meeting all these new people, trying to like make friends, like trying to people travel a lot, so like trying to like be involved in things, trying to be involved in like extra like curricular things as well, because there's all these like clubs. So I was trying to do a lot of the stuff relating to investments, impact investment. I was part of like a tournaments thing, so I like ended up representing INSEAD at like a tournament. We went to Wharton for that, but also involved in like some other clubs like the Africa Club. I don't know how I became co-president of the Africa Club. And then all these other things. And then on top of that, because INSEAD is a very like international um like school, they have campuses in like a bunch of different countries. So it's now like, okay, I moved to France to start the MBA, but then I then went to Abu Dhabi to do like an exchange there. And they also have like a Singapore campus, they have like a San Francisco campus. I ended up visiting almost all of the campuses like through different things. So it was now just like on top of trying to do all these things, then like physically be traveling to all of these different places and trying to get adjusted and not having time to get adjusted and things like that. So in that sense, it was like really intense. And I think, like I said, I think it was in some ways more intense than even just like running a company, because at least you're in one place. But like here, you're like, you can't even be in one place. You're like in many different places.
Yeah. Would you say, because obviously there's some things you learn during an MBA that could potentially be useful as a founder? Was there anything that you saw and you were like, oh yeah, I saw this while
Oh
I
my
was
God.
yeah, I saw this.
Yes, so many things. Oh my goodness. So many things. But the number one was this class we take on organizational behavior, which is kind of like the psychology of companies and like organizations. So we just talked about how just the dynamics within like a company. And I was like, wow, this is so like accurate as to like how how like everything worked, like even as much as we really like were we tried to make an environment, and I think we did make an environment in which everyone felt like very comfortable
Mm-hmm.
like speaking and stuff like that. It wasn't intentional, at least it wasn't like we weren't so conscious about it. And I saw how easily it could have gone a different way because like of how things were. And there were just so many things. I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe, I wish I had studied this before we came in. And even just like, I don't know, basic stuff around like, finance and even like for me, because I was like the operations person, right? I feel like there was a lot of knowledge that I wish I knew before going into it. But you just kind of learn as you're going. But like yeah, it was like really an eye opener. I was like, wow, that there's so many things.
So are you in the camp of go get an MBA before you become a founder, or just do it?
No, I'm definitely still just do it.
Okay.
I don't think it is like worth it to go and do the MBA first. But that said, you can find a co-founder that has an MBA. But I don't think it is something like, oh, wait first. Like, definitely not. But it was definitely very useful. And maybe, I don't know, have one of your co-founders be doing like a part-time MBA so that they can be getting some of the knowledge. And some of the stuff you can find it if you like search for it online. But of course, like when you're running a company, you're not going to be thinking, let me Google organizational behavior to know like what all the stuff is. So maybe it's just being more conscious that these are things you should be aware of and trying to seek out the knowledge. But no, I'm definitely camp. Just do it now. Don't like wait.
Yeah. When you think about what you want to do next, one of the questions I ask my guests is like, what's the next mountain you're climbing, right? What do you want to do next? You've been an operator, you've been a founder. It seems like you're tethering towards investment, want to join us on this side of the table?
Yeah.
What do you, what's that next thing for you? What's that next chapter for you? And what is it about investing that you find interesting?
Yeah, so I am definitely still very much figuring out exactly what it is I'm going to do. Like when I was going through the MBA, I was very focused on like VC and what's like how if this is something I want to do, let me like learn as much about it as I can. I recently finished an internship that I was doing with like a fund that was trying to set up the VC arm. So I was working with them on that, and it was, really great experience. Um, I would put the core of what I want to do as, supporting new ventures in whatever way that is. So whether that is, setting up a fund and, like investing in other entrepreneurs. And then my region focus is definitely Africa, even more specifically Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. Um, and so that could be through like a VC, it could be through, I don't know, maybe like an accelerator type thing. It could be through like a venture studio type thing. So I feel like I'm trying to keep myself quite open to what form specifically it does take. But I know that my end goal is okay, how do I enable new interesting like companies to exist and supporting, people who want to bring these companies into existence and people who are working on things that, you know, are very impactful for the region that we're in.
How would you have loved to be supported? Like, obviously, you want to go into that realm now of helping companies and supporting companies. Did you feel like you got that while being a founder? Is
Hmm.
that something you consciously want to kind of, maybe you didn't get that and you want to kind of do it for the next generation type thing, right?
Hmm.
What is it you've seen in the past as a founder that you love about, I don't know, any investor or any partner that has supported you that you want to carry along into this new chapter of your life, and what is different that you want to kind of like change?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question actually, because I think when you're a founder, and especially when you're like just fundraising and you're not necessarily looking for like advisors or things like that, you're not, I guess you're not actively trying to get what it is I think that we needed even at the time. Like we were more just focused on, okay, well, we just need to raise this amount in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve. And obviously there were some investors, especially like more of the early investors, even like microtraction, I feel that like were a bit more hands-on, especially like in the earlier stages, or could be helpful, like for example with YC, with actual like introductions to like banks that could actually like help us and things like that. Where I feel like we could have got more help was more just in the, I guess, the understanding that we were such like young entrepreneurs that were just so product focused, and understanding that like, okay, now that you're stepping into this founder role, there's a lot more things that you need to be made aware of. And I think we were, it's like what I said, the unknown unknowns, I guess. There were so many things that we didn't even know that we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps through maybe an accelerator or through like certain investors, we could have been more made aware of that. So be more prepared for like knowing all these random things like, oh, we filed for a company in Delaware and there's all these like random taxes that we now have to pay. And it's like we work with an accountant, but it's different from us knowing like what it is that we really need to know, if you get what I mean. So I feel like there's just so many things that like if you are just like a software engineer that's starting a company, you don't necessarily know about. And that's where a certain type of investor can really help, like, open your eyes to like, okay, these are things that you really need to be aware of.
Yeah. What advice do you have for female founders in particular, when they're starting their company? Like you've been there, you've done it. It's hard, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's hard to raise money as a Black person, as a Black founder, as a female Black founder. We can go on and on and drill
Yeah.
down.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for them?
It is definitely more difficult for us. And I think the advice I would give is that maybe just know that it's going to be more difficult, but that doesn't mean that like what you're building isn't valuable or shouldn't exist, right? Like, I guess maybe just being aware of the fact that you're probably going to have to work harder can maybe at least help you mentally prepare for that. But don't get discouraged if you're getting, a bunch of no's and feel like, okay, maybe this means that what I'm working on just isn't valuable or just shouldn't exist. Like, you will have to develop quite a thick skin, and maybe being aware of that will help prepare you. But just don't give up, or try not to give up.
That's good. try not to give up. I mean,
Yeah, it's
this,
hard, but try.
yeah, because like you like the no's are plenty, like it's a lot,
Exactly.
and you just can't stop because of a no. I have
Hmm.
this if you only knew questions as we wrap up
Okay.
this conversation. It's just like a quick fire questions just to know you better, and then
Okay.
give whatever answers that pop to your head. um Something you wish you were better at.
Ooh. I mean, am I allowed to say the public speaking?
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think what I mentioned about being a more engaging speaker is something I do want to be better at.
What's the longest period you've been awake for?
Ooh, awake. Man, I like to sleep though. Like, well, I'm sure, maybe if I've like traveled to the US or something, I try to like to manage jet lag, I try and like stay awake so that I go to sleep at the right time. So I'm sure I've been awake like more than like, I don't know, 30 something hours because of something like that. But I really like to sleep. I am not a person that's going to like stay awake all night because of, I don't do all nighters. I sleep.
I sleep as well too. I don't do all
Yeah.
nighters. I try.
Yeah.
I try. Best tech product right now.
Best tech product. I'm enjoying my Remarkable. I have the paper tablets, so like you can take notes and stuff with. I do enjoy still using like notebooks as well, but I like having that as a place where I can have, any notes that I'm taking like really like stored in a place that's like always accessible.
What food could you eat every day?
Oh, plantain.
Really? Are you
Plantain
one
and
of
chicken.
those
Yeah,
that can't eat rice and stew without plantain?
I can, but like,
It has
I
to be
like,
there.
what's the point? What is the point in that? But no, I genuinely could eat plantain every day of my life.
What's the best TV show on right now for you?
That's like, you mean that has ever like existed or that is currently like live,
That
if
has
you get
ever
what I mean?
existed?
But then The Wire, that one is like clear for me.
Really? I love The Wire though. It's in my top three.
Yeah.
Definitely in my top three.
What else can be there? Like,
Oh,
it's
I
your
do.
top one.
No, no. Do you want to know my top three?
I guess, even though it's wrong, but like,
So definitely The Wire,
okay,
definitely
good.
The Sopranos.
Do you put The Sopranos above The
Yeah,
Wire? Oh my goodness, you're
yeah.
one of those people.
I love The
I watched The
Sopranos.
Sopranos, and for me, it's not even close. Like,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. What's my third one? I have to come back to you on that, but I know The Sopranos
okay,
and The Wire. Those two are.
yeah,
I mean, Breaking Bad. I don't know if it's top three, maybe top five, but Breaking Bad is one of those really good shows as well.
yeah. I put it up there, but I'm not. I wouldn't put it in top three, but I would put it
Yeah.
up there.
What's your all-time favorite song?
Song.
Yeah, if you have one.
This is difficult because I'm not a huge like music person that much. Um, I tend to like listen to a few things. Okay, you know what? I'm going to say album, and then I'm going to say the Hamilton soundtrack is like my top.
Makes sense. Who never fails to make you laugh?
Hmm. My nephew, I guess, he's always saying crazy stuff. So, yeah.
And what era in history would you have loved to experience, aside from your era?
See, I'm one of these people that's like, if I go back in history, am I going to be a slave? That's the first thing I always think of when people talk about like going back in history. But assuming I'm
No,
gonna be like,
no,
okay,
you're gonna be a fly on the wall.
okay, okay, good. Um, let's see. Hmm. The thing is, I would really love to experience what life was like in Nigeria, like I don't know, 200 years ago or something, like before,
Wow.
or even longer than that, like just the origins of, well, maybe not origins is the right word, but I would like to see like what we lived like before colonialism or before like other people came. So maybe 1,000 years ago or something.
Fair enough. Ira, thank you very much for a very good conversation. Really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.
Awesome.